Welcome to VASIVA. This is episode 4, and today's episode is going to be a little bit more laid back. For those of you watching it on YouTube, as you can see, I am in sweatpants, and I brought my lo-fi mic with me. Hair in a bun, no makeup, don't care, because today's video will be about mental health. And specifically talking about anxiety and depression and my personal experience with it and how I dealt with it throughout my life. So I have notes here that I have beside me. I'll be looking to them, occasionally. So I want to talk about my current situation with my mental health because I felt like this topic was very important to talk about, especially during the times that we're in. We're dealing with, being cooped up inside and not really going anywhere, being stuck with the same people, seeing the same faces, not being able to socialize really. And that can lead your mind into some dark places and cause, uneasiness, nervousness, and end up in being anxiety. So currently, I haven't been diagnosed with these things properly, but I do know for sure that I do have anxiety and that I also have dealt with depression before and have been depressed. And depression doesn't usually go away, just hides and then resurfaces after a while, but that's where I am right now. So the first thing I would like to talk about is the stigma around mental health, especially in a European household. I'm Serbian, for those of you who don't know, and the stigma surrounding mental health back home is very unhealthy. Pretty much if you have a therapist there, you're mentally insane. When they think of a psychiatrist, they don't think of someone, to help you through your everyday battles. They think, oh, you're mentally incapable of thinking, processing emotions, you're insane, actually insane. Which is a sad thing to see, because here in the West side, it's very normal now, especially with my generation. Before it used to be so secret, oh, she's going to therapy, she has some issues. Now it's guess what I told my therapist this session? I have, I can relate. I remember I have a therapist, for those of you, if you're wondering, and I just recently got one. I think I started my sessions with her about a month ago. She came at the perfect timing before this whole pandemic came around, but I was so scared of telling people that I finally found a therapist and that I was seeking help, because I felt like people would judge and they would secretly be like, oh, look at her, she has problems and issues and she's fucking insane. But no, everyone that I've told, they just say, okay, that's good, good for you, I'm glad you're getting help and stuff like that. And I'm yay, support. But it's really nice to have that support system. My mother is very supportive of it as well. She doesn't really understand it, but she gives all her love and support to me as always, especially when it comes to mental health. I remember she sat me down maybe about a month or two ago, and she was like, how are you doing? And I was like, fine, thanks for asking. And she was like, no, how are you actually doing, mentally, right now? And I was like, oh, I was sick. I was I would have never expected her to ask that question 2 years ago at all. So I was honest with her, and I was like, I'm okay, for now, I'm doing okay. At the time I was okay. Nothing has really struck me at that time yet. And my whole family never really talked about mental health or having depression or seeing a therapist. None of that was talked about, none of that was spoken of. just never talked about it really. So that's my past experience with it. And let's start on how I knew I had it. So for depression wise, it's a little rocky there because I didn't experience, like, I guess you can say the classic, quote unquote classic, depression traits and symptoms, which, like, you don't shower for a couple days, you don't eat for a couple days, you just don't feel like doing anything. Because at that time, it was back home, I was around maybe 10, 11 was when it started. Because back home, my parents were getting a divorce, fights were happening in the house, just a lot of, like, negative energy was going around at that time. Very, like, disconnected. We did not feel like a family at all. And that happened for consecutive about 4 years. So that was fun. I never again got properly diagnosed because, especially over there, like, you think I was dealing with depression? No, they'd be like, here, take, like, a sip of brandy and you're good to go. Like, no, that's not how it works back there. But I realized that even though I was constantly doing stuff like studying and getting good grades and, being social with friends, I always had this mask on, especially when I was, like, in school or hanging out with friends. Like, none of my friends knew what was happening in my private life and my household life besides one friend, and that, like, I opened up to her and told her about the issues that we were having. And bless her heart, she didn't really understand what I was going through, but she was just there to listen, like a listening ear, and that helped a lot. Still talk to her, still love her. She's still one of my best friends from back home. And even when I talk about it, I get, like, a little bit emotional because she was literally the only person there helping me cope with it, and I, like, love her and appreciate her so much for it. I love you, Maria. But yeah, so I realized, and I look back on it now, that that was most likely depression. Keep in mind, I mean, I was never diagnosed, so, don't come at my throat for it. But based on what I was feeling and the symptoms I was having, it was definitely some case of depression, not very severe. It was like depression that was masked, but my life still continued, like, quote unquote normally because I had that mask on. So no one can tell I was depressed. Like, even I didn't think I was depressed at the time. Looking back on it, oh hell yeah, I was. Like, my home life was falling apart in pieces. So the only thing I can really do was have this mask on to the world and, pretend that everything was okay when in reality it really wasn't. And then my depression resurfaced this year, last year, 2019, in, like, October-ish, because I started school full-time again in media, and I also found a job. I was working at LCBO, and I was working a lot of hours. My schedule was pretty much school Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then I would be at a family friend's house, and I would commute from their place for the hour every day. And then I would come back home Wednesday night, and I would be at work Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and the occasional Sunday. And then Sunday night, I would immediately have to go back to the family friend's place, sleep over, and then start my school day. So I did not have pretty much a single day off that whole time for, like, 2 straight months. And that killed me. I realized that my depression was relapsing, that I wasn't sleeping, I was fatigued, I felt so unmotivated to do anything, and life just felt like a constant, like, film reel, just, like, continuing and pacing on. And I was just, like, the tree, just, like, standing there, not doing anything. Like, life was moving in front of my eyes, but I just felt like I was just in a constant state of, like, stillness and just standing still. Like, I don't know, I honestly can't tell you how I kept it going, because I had the biggest mental breakdown after that. And I felt it coming on, which was funny. Literally right before my exams, I was telling my boyfriend that I feel a mental breakdown coming, but I have to compose myself because I cannot have a mental breakdown before exams. I have to get my shit together and study. And that's literally what happened. I studied, busted my ass off for those exams. And I didn't even get a day off, by the way, after exams. I immediately went to work the next day after my last exam was done. And I think the next day whatever day I had off after that, my boyfriend came over, boom, mental breakdown. Cried in his arms, laid till like 5 a.m., just like crying. It was way too much. I honestly don't know how I did it. I don't know how I survived it. And you may think it's over dramatic or anything like that, but working and constantly being on the move for 2 months straight, for over 2 months, gets to you. It does. Like, no human can put up with that for longer periods of time. And then for my anxiety wise, how I realized I had anxiety. This is a great story. So before high school, I was perfectly fine. I didn't have any social anxiety. I could go out, I can get lost. I wouldn't be scared. Never felt anything. Like during high school, I was dealing with trying to figure out what was wrong with me because I have a heart murmur. And then at the time, especially in grade 12, I was figuring out what was triggering my episodes. I would feel like very lightheaded, very dizzy, and I'd get like buzzing in my ear, and then that would happen if I didn't get enough sleep, I didn't eat enough, I didn't drink enough water, like everything affected it, even like stress levels affected it. And I still deal with that sometimes to this day, but oh my god, in grade 12 it was happening almost every week, at least once or twice, and my parents actually thought I was faking for the longest time. Like my mom and brother legitimately thought I was faking how I was feeling just to like get out of school. Meanwhile, here I am struggling because I feel like shit, but literally no doctor knows what is wrong with me. So then I ended up finding a good pediatrician. I was still like 17 at the time, so I didn't turn 18 yet, and I was like going to every pediatrician I can, trying to figure out what was wrong with me. They figured out what it was. It was vasculovagal hypotension. So like when I stand up, I can get dizzy. And then there's another, that's like one of the ones I have, and there's another one I have. I don't know what it's called though. Clearly I'm so up to date with my health, but it's basically if I don't eat enough, drink enough, get enough sleep, or I'm stressed, triggers my heart murmur, and I just get uneasiness. I get like lightheaded, nausea, tingling in my ears, and I get chest pain on my left like breast, which is amazing. I recommend it, 10 out of 10. And how it goes away is basically if I catch up on my sleep, I eat, drink, stuff like that, simple things, but for me it like affects me a lot. Like most people would be okay with like not getting enough sleep and eating and stuff like that. Nope, not me. I mean, my body goes into panic mode, and it's like, oh no, we haven't gotten 8 hours of sleep, how dare we. That just turned into a whole like medical history about myself. The more you know. But yes, throughout high school, completely fine. And then the minute I got into my first year of university, done. Anxiety started. I was feeling so uneasy and nervous in my classes. Like, of course, it's normal to feel nervous, but I realized like I would count my breaths. I would be aware of my breathing. I would be taking such deep breaths that it would cause me to feel like dizzy after. And I also realized I do this weird thing with my stomach where like I move it like in and out. I don't know, it's weird, but those are my anxiety tics, and I was so confused to what that was. And literally ever since then, I've had anxiety. It never goes away. It can like subside for a bit, like if I'm in a comfortable like zone, like for example my house and stuff like that. But even being in my house sometimes and not having something to do can cause my anxiety. Amazing, I know. Being in a place I don't know causes my anxiety, and especially what causes my anxiety? If I am not listening to something. Like, if I'm out in public, I need one headphone in because I cannot stand the outside silence, quote unquote. It's not even silence. The world is like busy, but I cannot stand the sound of it. So when I'm in class and a professor is teaching, I always need a headphone in because I, again, cannot stand that world silence. It sounds so weird, but that's the way it works for me. And it helps, like, if I'm in class and I'm with a friend and, you know, I know someone beside me, and then they help ease it because I can, like, talk to them. You know, I have someone beside me. When I'm alone, oh God, an anxiety attack strikes. Oh God, I have to get up. I have to go away. I gotta go, like, outside, watch a couple TV shows, you know, try to calm my brain. It's happened a couple times in class where I remember my photography class, even this semester, this year, I would have to get up and leave because my anxiety would start acting up and I could not deal with it. Like, I'd go to the washroom to try and calm down. Nope. I would try to, like, listen to music. Nope. And then finally my last resort would just be, like, pack up my bags and, like, dip and, like, try to, like, call someone or talk to someone to calm me down. So that is my experience with anxiety and mental health, depression and anxiety mainly. Anxiety is what mainly triggers me now. That's, like, my main concern. So what am I currently doing to help this? Let's see. I am journaling. Journaling has really helped me try to get my mind off of things, and if I feel like I can't talk to anyone about it, I journal. Again, the headphone in the one ear really helps me if I'm having an anxiety attack because I can just, like, blast the music and just, like, pay attention to that. Third is, like, really, like, talking to someone. Like, if I ever have an anxiety or I feel anxious, it happens, like, anytime, like, on the bus or something, if I'm alone, I pick up the phone and I call my boyfriend. And really cheesy, but, like, he he really eases my mind and, like, helps me calm down and immediately brings down my anxiousness. I know people say, like, you can try breathing exercise or whatever. Those don't really work for me. I personally haven't tried yoga in a long time, so I feel like yoga would be really good because I remember how relaxing it was for me after I finished it. So I would recommend yoga, but personally I haven't had it or tried it in so long. But knowing how I react to yoga, I feel like it would help and benefit me a lot, which I really should start it. And lastly, I think honestly what really helped me was getting help, like getting a therapist, like talking to someone, like talking to a professional about all of this. Because I remember when I went to my doctor about it, and I love my family doctor. She's amazing. She's like family. She's not a doctor. She's our family. I absolutely, like, love her. And I went to her and I was like, I'm feeling depressed. And I was like, I need help. And she's like, well, what are you feeling? And I told her I have, you know, this. And she said, okay, well, I'll try to refer you to our hospital. And thank God, the first clinic didn't accept me, but they said if the second clinic accepts you, that's great. And then if not, then we'll probably take you back. And bless their souls, the second clinic accepted me, which is where I found my therapist. And it's been really helping because I'm trying to realize that what I've been through in my life is trauma, because I've tried to push it back for so long. And, you know, until I've actually, like, opened up and talked to someone about it. For example, my boyfriend, I really, like, rely on him to, like, talk about any issues I have and stuff like that, which I know my partner is not a therapist, but don't come down my throat. But you know, having a significant other to vent to and to tell your experiences and your past about is very nice, and it's very important to me, and it helps a lot. So he was the one that actually told me, like, babe, you need help. He's like, babe, you need a therapist. Like, you have trauma too. Like, it's, you know. And I was like, and he's like, I'll help you find a therapist. And I was like, yay. Unfortunately, none of that, like, worked out. But, I finally took the step and went out and sought help for myself. And I honestly can't pat myself on the back more than that, because I am so happy that I finally put down that stigma surrounding mental health in my family and around me, that I pushed it all aside and I went to go get help, because it has been helping. And I know that now in quarantine, my anxiety also has started acting up a bit. And I know it is for everyone too. These are really hard times that we're going through. But I really suggest, if you can, seek mental health. I know the Canadian government is trying to open more options up for mental health, because people need it in these times. So take advantage of it if you can. Yeah, that's all I would say. Don't be embarrassed if you do need help. Reach out to a friend first, or a family member if you can't, and if not, then reach out to your family doctor, or even, I know there's a couple mental health clinics around that help as well. So reach out to them if by yourself, if you can't rely on someone else to help you with it. Definitely reach out to them first and take that step to better yourself, because everyone has issues that they're dealing with, whether past or present, and I think that seeking help from a professional will ease any issues that you had. Because my main goal with my therapist is to figure out what my trauma is from what, and how it affects me, and how can I learn to cope with it and deal with it. So, like I said, anxiety and depression is nothing to take lightly. It is a very serious topic. I personally thought never in my life I would deal with anxiety and depression. I was one of those normal kids that had nothing, no social anxiety, no nothing. I was completely fine, and then poof, one day moved out to university all alone in my dorm without my mom, starting new classes, meeting new friends. That all got to me, and then that's when my anxiety started, and it hasn't stopped then. It's a constant thing, and I don't know if it'll ever go away. Same as depression, it never goes away. So I suggest really finding coping mechanisms, or again, people to help you, because your mental health is important. And screw anyone who says it isn't, or isn't real, or that you're mentally insane if you go to therapy. I'm adding European parents and European culture in general. But yeah, that was this. I know this episode was kind of more about my personal experience and stuff like that. That's what every episode is about. But I'll put some numbers in the description down below if any of you need to reach out to anyone and talk to someone. Please do. It's for your own good. Thank you for tuning in or listening in to this episode of VASIVA, and I will see you all in the next episode. Stay safe and stay mentally sane. Bye, guys.